Let's turn our focus to Europe now, in particular the continent's drive for defence autonomy. The EU Commission laying out its vision today, calling on member states to boost military spending, pool resources on joint defence projects and buy more European arms. The executive body outlined those proposals in a white paper on defence, which it believes will make Europe stronger and more sufficient by 2030. Let's speak to Dave Keating, France 24's Brussels correspondent now. David, good to see you. Just take us through what this white paper had to say.
Yeah, this white paper is really putting meat on the bones of the Rearm EU strategy that was announced very hurriedly 2 weeks ago, the morning after the U.S. froze its aid to Ukraine. Essentially, the white paper got preempted. They had to put a lot of it out earlier. But we didn't have a lot of the details. So now we have the details that are going to be up for discussion when the EU's prime ministers and presidents come here to Brussels for their summit tomorrow. The most contentious parts of this have to do with some of the specifics about how this funding is going to work. So there's going to be a loan program called SAFE, which will be 150 billion euros, which member states of the EU can borrow from in order to buy military equipment. However, how that will be financed is controversial because the idea is for the Commission to go to the markets and raise money there using the EU's common debt. That's something that the northern countries, the Germanic Protestant countries, don't like, the so-called frugals. They opposed it for a long time, but it was done for the first time during COVID, and the Commission wants to do it again. That's going to make for some fireworks tomorrow. Germany has recently exited the Frugals Club, now willing to take on more debt. Then there's also this provision that the spending that would come through this EU program would have to be bi-European. They would have to spend it on European military equipment for 65% of the fund. 65% would need to be equipment made in Europe. This is an idea pushed by France. The reason is that if these EU countries buy their arms from American companies, the US government can stop those arms from being used. It's come up a couple times in the past 3 years where EU member states wanted to send arms to Ukraine, but those arms were made by American companies and the US government said no. So France is saying, look, we can't be reliant on the US, and this is too risky, having the possibility that the US government forbids us from using these weapons that we're buying, and so we should buy from European companies. This idea isn't so popular with other countries, particularly in the EU's east. They're saying Europe just doesn't have the capacity to be able to approve all of this. So we'll see what happens tomorrow with those discussions about the common debt and with the Buy European clause. Another possible skirmish tomorrow about these plans is the idea to use cohesion policy funds in order to fund defense investments. Those funds are actually for poor regions of the EU to bring them up to richer region standards. They're very important to southern European countries. And so Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, has said Italy will not use any of those cohesion funds for military expenditure. She has not been very enthusiastic about Italy spending more on its military in general. And I think if there's any suggestion that EU countries are actually going to be pressured to use that cohesion funding for military spending, she's going to push back hard tomorrow.
Have any of the other member states been reacting to the proposals put forward by the Commission today?
Well, we already know that Hungary's Viktor Orban will not sign up to this. When I was talking to member state reps today, they made very clear that as far as they know, Orban has not changed his stance in opposing all of this. And so they're going to go around him. Again, like they did 2 weeks ago at the emergency summit, they adopted their conclusions on supporting Ukraine with just 26 of the 27 member states excluding Orban. They're going to do so again. It's entirely possible. A lot of these traditions of having national vetoes in the council are just that, traditions. They're not law. They can be worked around. The thing is that countries don't like to do it because then they set a precedent that national vetoes can't be used, and there's nervousness about ceding that kind of power to the EU. Nevertheless, the situation is obviously very dramatic and very urgent at the moment, and the other countries have really lost patience with Viktor Orban. So he won't be able to veto tomorrow. So that'll leave it for the rest of them, the other 26. Another one to watch is Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico. He has been on Team Orban in terms of siding with Russia rather than Ukraine and saying that the EU should really shut up and take a step back here while Trump holds his negotiations with Vladimir Putin. Last 2 weeks ago, he did sign up to the conclusions. Will he do so again tomorrow? That remains to be seen.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Dave, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed there. Dave Keating reporting live there from Brussels. Our next clashes